delay 5 minutes. Okay, good afternoon to one and all. I welcome you all for today's technical talk commemorating 75 years of independence under Azadi ka Amrith Mahotsav. And today's speaker is Professor Narendra Mohan, Director, National Sugar Institute, Kanpur. So he will be talking on Indian sugar industry, sugar and beyond. So before he starts, I will briefly introduce him to audience. Professor Narendra Mohan is an inspiring teacher, admirable research worker, and an esteemed government official, having a long and distinguished career of working in sugar industry and at the National Sugar Institute. An author of 6 books and more than 150 papers published in various reputed journals reflect his passion for innovative work. He has played a pivotal role in converting sugar industry into clean and green industry, producing biochemicals, other bioproducts, and bioenergy apart from sugar. Professor Mohan is associated with many prestigious international scientific societies and organizations. He has been instrumental in taking the institute to across the globe, and today National Sugar Institute is providing its services to various sugar producing countries, and in fact also providing consultancy to set up a sugar institute at Nigeria. He has visited extensively to Switzerland, Indonesia, Nigeria, France, Kenya, Thailand, and Iran to deliver lectures and to provide technical consultancy. His merit and commendable work has carried out for improving productivity of sugar industry has been acknowledged globally, for which he has been conferred with many prestigious awards. To name a few, Dr. Bansidhar Gold Medal in Industry Excellence Award, Innovative Leader of Asia Award, Outstanding Academic Leader of the Year, Best Director of the Year Award, ABP News Award, and Anol Dear Gold Medal. It is my privilege to invite Professor Narendra Mohan to deliver today's technical talk. I request him to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CFTRI, for giving a very extended introduction about myself. First of all, let me wish all of you, because we are into the 75th year of the independence and we are celebrating Azadi ka Amrith Mahotsav. So no time could have been better than this one to deliver a lecture on how the Indian sugar industry is moving and how we are looking at the Indian sugar industry, looking beyond sugar, and how the sugar production and consumption behaviors are changing on pan-India basis. So first of all, let me thank Dr. Sridevi and Poona Singh, the director of CFTRI, the faculty for arranging this sort of interactive session or a lecture for the students, where I will get a chance to showcase what we are at National Sugar Institute and how the Indian sugar industry is moving and talking about. So students, I was, had the privilege of being at your institute also, a fantastic building and fantastic infrastructure you do have at CFTRI, and compliments goes to the director and the faculty of CFTRI for having such a wonderful institute, the surroundings and everything, the infrastructure and the R&D facilities. So not wasting much of the time, because I do have limited time with me as well. Coming straight forward to the Indian sugar industry, because my perception joining hands with CFTRI was something, different, because we at sugar industry are now moving around and we are talking about more than sugar, because we think sugar is not the only product which we can have from the sugar industry, but we can have multiple products from the sugar industry. And in fact, we are looking into integration with the food processing industry, and we are talking about converting sugar industry into a sort of agribusiness complex, bioenergy complex, or in future we are going to talk about the biorefinery culture. So just to give some idea about the Indian sugar industry, because sometime we are first or sometime we are the the second largest producer of the sugar. In fact, we are the top most consumer of the sugar in the world. The top most consumer of the sugar in the world is not because our per capita consumption is higher, but because we are having large population of around 135 crores. So that makes us the topmost consumer of the sugar in the world. This year, if we go by the statistics, we have left Brazil behind, and we are the largest producer of the sugar in the world, producing around 35.8 million metric tons of the sugar. So we are going to end up the sugar season. For your information, sugar season in India starts from October and it ends on September of the next year. So from October to September, still few factories are in operation in Tamil Nadu. So we are going to end up the season 2021-22 with 35.8 million metric tons of the sugar, even after diverting sugar for ethanol and for many other purposes. So we have become the largest producer of the sugar in the world, and the consumption point of view, we are the biggest consumer of the sugar in the world because of the population. Our consumptions, as you can see on your screens, it is around 27 or 26.5 million metric tons, plus minus, around 0.5 million metric tons here and there. And the per capita consumption that stands around 19 kg per annum. Not to forget that we Indians also consume lot of khansari, jaggery or gur. So that way the total consumption of the sweetener is still higher, and that is slated to be around 24 to 25 kg per annum. Uh, if we talk about the size of the industry, we are too big because sugar industry is considered as the one of the largest or one of the biggest agro processing industry, where we do have more than 50 million farmers associated with the sugarcane cultivation, and area of sugar cultivation being somewhere around 5 to 5.5 million hectares on pan India basis. If we talk about another feature of the Indian sugar industry, that we do have sugar factories all over the country, except for the few areas of the northeast or J&K or Himachal. As you can see the red spots on your screen on the Indian map, where we do have the cluster of sugar factories. You can see in the green portions, we do have a lot of sugar factories working in Maharashtra in particular, where we do have 200 around sugar factories, in UP, where we do have 120 operational sugar factories. And then we do have many sugar factories in Karnataka, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Bihar, Haryana, and also in Chhattisgarh. So that way we are, fairly spread on pan-India basis, except for the terrains of Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu, Kashmir, and in Northeast. If I talk about, the yield of the sugarcane, because we in India produce sugar from the sugarcane. We are not producing sugar from sugar beet, except for one sugar factory in Punjab, which is producing sugar from the sugar beet. All the operational sugar factories, except one, are producing sugar from the sugarcane, and the productivities in terms of the yield of the sugarcane, these are the highest in Tamil Nadu, and these are much lower in the states of Bihar or Chhattisgarh. But if I talk about the overall average of the sugarcane productivity, it stands at around 80 tons per hectare on pan-India basis. Now, sometimes people talk about what type of the sugar you produce, because we are not making only one type of the sugar on commercial scale. And you should understand, at least the student should understand, that we produce three different type of the sugar in commercial sugar factories. By and large, 90% of the sugar which we produce in India, specifically because today I'm more focusing on what we are doing in India. We are producing plantation white sugar. What is plantation white sugar? It is a sugar which is produced directly using the sugar cane. You crush the sugar cane, you get the juice, you clarify the juice, you concentrate it, and you crystallize it. Once you remove the sugar crystals from the mother liquor, you get the plantation white sugar. So plantation white sugar is a sugar which is produced directly from the sugarcane juice by doing some clarification, evaporation, crystallization, and centrifugation techniques. So this is the plantation white sugar. In out of the 520 sugar factories, we are producing plantation white sugar in 450 odd sugar factories in the country. Now, second comes the raw sugar, and the third one is the refined sugar. If you go to other countries, mostly, this plantation white sugar is limited to the SAARC countries or some of the African countries, or in one or two sugar countries, not sugar countries, but the countries who are into sugar business, and they are producing plantation white sugar. So SAARC, part of the African countries, and Southeast Asia, they are into plantation white sugar. Otherwise, if I talk about global scenario, the people are producing either raw sugar or the refined sugar. Now, what is raw sugar and what is refined sugar? You have to understand. Sometimes people call it as a kachi chini. Raw sugar is kachi chini because you cannot consume it directly. There is no such legislation that you cannot consume it directly. But what we are doing, it is also being made from the sugarcane juice, but with minimum of the clarification. We are putting, minimum, or we are using minimum amount of the chemicals for clarification. So the quality is not at par with the plantation white sugar. It is slightly dull in quality as compared to the plantation white sugar, and it acts as a raw material for making the refined sugar, because the sugar so produced is used as a raw material for making superior quality of the sugar. It is called as the raw sugar. And the third one is the refined sugar, which is the first choice of the beverage industry, or for confectionery industries, or for the bakery industry, or for making many specialty sugars, that is produced by melting the raw sugar, clarifying the melt, and recrystallizing it. So basically, this is the reprocessing of the raw sugar, and we get the refined sugar. So globally, sugar is traded either as raw or as refined. Now you can see a small video. Students, this will give you some idea about how we produce the sugar, the unit operations in production of the sugar. So this will give you some idea on that. I'm going to just play the video. Enjoy it. So this is something about the process of raw sugar production from the sugarcane juice. One thing one correction is there because the video is a borrowed video. They have talked about using bone char, but in fact we are not using any bone char, but we are using either ion exchange resins or we are using powdered active carbon for decolorization of the sugar melt. Not looking into the concept because I was talking about we are thinking big and we are having a sort of out of box thinking. What we used to do in sugar industry, we used to produce only sugar earlier. When we used to have sugarcane juice, making sugar, and we used to get three different byproducts because once you crush the sugarcane, you get sugarcane juice from which you make the sugar, and you get a fibrous material which is the bagasse. You clarify the sugarcane juice as you have seen, and the impurities they come out in the form of a cake which is known as the filter cake. Now, finally, once the crystallization is over and you get the sugar, the mother liquor which is taken out from the sugar factory is known as molasses, which is now by and large is being used for making the ethanol. And ethanol is now the savior of the sugar industry. So this is the present scenario which we are talking about. Once you crush the sugar cane, you get sugar, which you bag, which you market, which you consume. You get the fibrous material, which is the bagasse. It is around 29 to 32% on the quantity of the sugar cane. You use this bagasse as a fuel and you produce power. The sugar factories in general are exporting power to the national grid and they are, getting some money by sale of the surplus power. Another byproduct which I was talking about, which is the filter cake, the residual impurities which we take out from the sugarcane juice. These impurities as a filter cake, they are being used for making the biocompost or for making the compressed biogas. So this byproduct is also being utilized for either making biocompost or for making the compressed biogas. Molasses, which is, I am talking about, it is a money spinner for the sugar industry now. What we are doing with the molasses, we are making various type of the alcohols, maybe the extra neutral alcohol, which is the need for the potable sector. We are making, rectified spirit, which is consumed by the chemical sector. But most of the distilleries, most of the ethanol units are producing ethanol. Ethanol, which is required for the doping purposes, because the government of India has got a very ambitious program, which is the ethanol blending program, where we are aspiring for 10% of the blending. The target is to achieve 10% of the blending by 2022, and we are all set to achieve the blending target of 20% by 2025. We have already achieved the 10% blending in India, 6 months prior to the date of the commitment, and we are very hopeful that we are going to achieve the target of 20% of the blending by 2025. So the sugar industry, the Indian sugar industry is going to play a major role, the pivotal role in making available the ethanol which is required for 20% blending in the petrol. Because why we are looking into ethanol, why we are going in for the ethanol blending into the petrol, this is for many reasons. And the important is because the students, you must be knowing that more than 80% of our requirement of the crude oil is met through imports. So we are heavily dependent upon imports, which causes us, the loss of the foreign exchange. We cannot have the energy security. And the fossil fuels, once we use, they are not very environment friendly. And we are talking about the greenhouse gas emissions. We are talking about carbon neutrality. We are also talking about clean, green, and renewable energy. So that way, ethanol is considered as a clean, green, and renewable fuel. So we try to replace the crude oil or the petrol with ethanol. And so the government of India is very keen how we can have more and more ethanol for energy security, reducing the drain of the foreign exchange, and to get a clean and green fuel as well. So this is the present scenario where we are not making only sugar, but we are having power generation, we are having biogas generation, we are having the biocompost, and we are having ethanol. So it is all green. So we are talking about a very clean and green sugar industry in the country. The future strategy, as we are talking about now, because we do have a vision 2030 and vision 2050, where we are talking about converting sugar industry or the sugar factories into biorefineries, where we can have biofood, where we can have biochemicals, where we can have bioenergy, and where we can also have the bio water, because sugarcane contains 70% water. After meeting your all requirements of processing, you save around 10 to 12% of the water, which can be utilized for many purposes, for irrigation purposes, or for even for as a replacement for the fresh water. So you can see on the screens, if you get the bagasse, what you can do. One thing, which I wanted to highlight is the sugar industry is already into healthcare. They are already into nutraceuticals. You must remember, COVID has not gone, and during the COVID, the sanitizers they were required, and they came in a big way. And the sugar industry was there to contribute the alcohol required for the purposes. So already, the sugar industry is supplying alcohol for making sanitizers. So it is already into the healthcare. We are talking about the dietary fibers from the bagasse. We are talking about molasses as a edible molasses. We are talking about so many products from the sugar industry, including the high value chemicals, the biogas, the wax, the into the sugar, into the pharmaceutical sectors as well. So this is something, about the future strategy, which we are trying to, focus, and we are trying to educate the Indian sugar industry as well, that please do not limit yourself to sugar. Please do not try to limit yourself to sugar, ethanol, power, and CBG, compressed biogas, but open your wings, have many, many products in your shelves, and look into the relative economics of making all these products. So, for you students, we do have many opportunities. Sometimes I say, Indian sugar industry or sugar industry is an industry of glorious opportunities, because sugarcane is a divine crop, and there is nothing like waste in the sugar industry. You can convert waste to resource, you can convert waste to wealth. So this is a glimpse of what we are looking into. We are talking about eco-ware, crockery, and particle board, because we are looking into the environment, we are looking into the surroundings, we are talking about the renewable electricities, the bioplastics. So all about, which is going to make sugar industry economically sustainable and environmentally sustainable. To cut short, why we are also looking into all these, products, because we want the sugar industry should have a product portfolio. You should have a business model. You should not depend on revenues from the sugar only. You should have many, streams through which you can add revenue to your system. So if you talk about a very conventional system, which is the primary sale of the byproduct, selling molasses, filter cake, or bagasse as such, you are heavily dependent upon the revenues from the sugar. If you go for secondary utilization of the byproducts, you produce power, you produce ethanol, you produce CBG, your dependency on revenues from the sugar, that decreases. And 80% of the revenues will come from sugar, and 20% of the revenues will come from other sources. But we look into another system, another business model, where your dependency on revenues from the sugar, they become less and less. And you are dependent only to the extent of 70% or even lower, and 30 to 40% revenues are, which may come from other value-added products, including ethanol, bio-CNG, and sale of the surplus power. So that way, if we can do that, we can open, an era where we can invite more investments, more prosperity, growing economy, and never forget about the employment potential which we can generate. So this is the vision which we are going to, implement in the Indian sugar industry. Now, just to give you a very, generic view, because I told you that once we crush the sugar cane, we get sugarcane juice, which is utilized for making the sugar, and we get the fibrous material, which we call as bagasse. This bagasse contains cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Primarily, right now, we are using it as a fuel, because we burn in the boiler, we produce steam, steam runs the turbines, and we generate the power. The power is utilized for meeting the captive power requirements, and the surplus power is exported to the national grid to earn revenues. But you see the host of other products, because I am not very theoretical, I'm a practical man, and I talk about taking the low hanging fruits first. So first is dietary fiber, because I'm talking about the healthcare and where the role of CFTRI and the people from the food technology comes into the picture. How to convert this bagasse into a dietary fiber? Because if I talk about the price of the bagasse, it is hardly 2 rupees 50 paisa per kg or 3 rupees per kg. But if you talk about the dietary fiber, it will be 1,000 rupees a kg or 2,000 rupees a kg. So the volumes may be less, but the amount of the revenues which you are going to get by way of the price of the dietary fiber is enormous. So it is a question, or it is a debate between the market volumes and the price of the product which you produce out of the bagasse. So dietary fiber, pulp and paper we are already doing, but now because of the ban on the single-use plastic, we are in a big way to making the producing this eco-friendly cutlery or the tableware. Because once you produce this eco-friendly cutlery from the bagasse, within 45 days you are going to have nothing in your hands, and it is 100% compostable. Many goods, many advantages are in favor of the this eco-ware crockery, because this is sturdy, having good thermal properties, this is leak-proof, and this is 100% compostable above all. We can talk about many other nanomaterials, or the biochemicals which we can talk about. Graphene oxide is one. Recently we cracked the technology for making vanillin, because you students from the food technology must be having some idea about how we produce the vanillin. It comes from the vanilla pots, and if you talk about any cake, pastries, we always talk about the vanilla flavors. So ice creams to cake to pastries, anything has got a vanilla flavor. And if you produce it from the vanilla pots, it's very costly. Hardly 4% of the production of the vanillin that comes from the vanilla pots. Otherwise, it is come from the petrochemical base. So this is again, a product, the vanillin, which is having a bio origin. It is coming from the lignin part of the bagasse. So that way we can talk about many things, the biochemicals and many value added items which are, having some relation with your food technology as well. Then the particle boards, again, we are trying to save the environment, no cutting of the trees, and you can convert this bagasse into particle boards, and then bioplastics, anti-aging creams, and host of other value added products which we can talk about. Filter cake, this is nothing, as I have already shown you, I have already discussed with you that you clarify the sugarcane juice, and once you clarify the sugarcane juice, you get the impurities as a precipitate, or you take it out as a cake. So generally we use this filter cake because it contains a lot of organic matter. We use it, we do the biocomposting, and the biocompost is used by the farmers. Otherwise, it contains a lot of wax also that can be taken out, and this cane wax is used for making the shoe polishes and the the carbon papers and all that. And now there is a growing concept, because we are talking about a clean and green sugar industry. We are talking about the hub of the green energy. So we are using this filter cake. We are using other agro waste. We are using the effluents from the distillery, and we are producing the this biogas, or the compressed biomethane, or the compressed biogas. The third, which is the precious, I should say, it is not a byproduct. In fact, in books, we talk about molasses as a byproduct, but the amount of, the value addition which we are getting in the sugar industry now, this molasses is like a co-product from the sugar industry. And as I told you, that we are contributing to a greater extent in ethanol blending program, because by 2025, we are talking about 20% of the blending, where we will be requiring around 1,016 crore liters of the ethanol for doping purposes. So from where this 1,016 crore liters of the ethanol will come? And beyond that, we need, 350 crore liters of the alcohol to meet the requirement of the potable sector. We need, alcohol for meeting the requirement of the chemical sectors. So in totality, we are going to, we are supposed to produce around 1,500 crore liters of the alcohol plus ethanol by 2025. The sugar industry is going to contribute in a bigger way, and around 60% of the alcohol plus ethanol is going to come from the feedstocks from the sugar industry. So this is going to save sugar industry, because we do have a very fantastic, differential pricing policy of ethanol from the government of India. This is not the, the talk of today, but again, coming to food, integrating National Sugar Institute with CFTRI, and integrating the sugar industry with the food processing industry, looking into food technologies to come in a big way into the sugar industry and produce edible molasses. Because couple of days back I was there at CFTRI and I had a discussion, long discussion with scientists from the CFTRI that it can be a money spinner because it contains a lot of calcium, magnesium, iron, and so many other nutrients. So can we use this molasses as edible molasses, not the final molasses, but an intermediate molasses? Already this molasses, the so termed, I will not call it as real molasses, but the so termed molasses is finding place in the shelves of the hyper malls, super malls, and at the airports at exorbitant cost. So this is another very eye-catching item for me where we can integrate the sugar industry and the institutes like National Sugar Institute and CFTRI can work. Other from molasses we can have high value chemicals. We are already making ethanol to sanitizers, cattle feed, baker yeast. So baker yeast again a area or an item which is of choice to the food technologist. So this is all the low hanging fruits from the molasses which we can take. Just to give an idea about the major sugar importing countries and the major or the principal sugar exporting countries, Brazil is always, number one as far as the sugar exports are concerned, and Indonesia, China, United States, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Algeria, many other, African states or countries rather, they are importing the sugars. India, from the last couple of years, a greater extent. This year, last year we exported around 6 million metric tons of the sugar. This year we are going to export around 11 million metric tons of the sugar. So we are structured surplus in sugar now, and this is the reason why we are looking into many type of the sugars, exploring the market of the specialty sugars, which is being dominated by Mauritius, or we are trying to sacrifice the sugar for making the ethanol. So this is the sugar scenario. As you can see from the last many years now, we are surplus in sugar. So what is the highlight of the market? What people are talking about? The focus is on sugar quality because everybody has become quality conscious. The common consumer, the industrial users, whether it is direct consumptions or indirect consumptions, the focus is on sugar quality, and the media is also talking about the sugar quality, and everybody is talking about the sugar quality. All that glitters is not gold. So that way, the sugar which is white in nature or very lustrous may not be good enough, but we are talking about sugar quality in a very holistic manner. So, but attention is, or the focus is on sugar quality. The focus is on overall reduction as well, because this is a challenge for all of us at National Sugar Institute and elsewhere, because the people talk nonsense about once you consume the sugar, you are going to have many, health problems. So, but as the media is talking about, as there is a growing publicity on internet, if you just search the Google, the people will talk about it as a sweet poison or something, many adjectives and adverbs will come into the picture, but not talking good about the sugar, and the focus is on how we can reduce the sugar consumption. So in fact, the sugar consumptions, the direct sugar consumptions in all the countries across the globe are either statics or they are declining. The sugar, whatever increase which we are getting, this is getting because the populations are increasing or the indirect consumption of the sugar has increased. But direct consumption is not increasing; it is almost statics or static or even going down. And we are also talking about the alternative solutions now. How we can reduce the sugar in place of sugar, what we can do, which is not going to harm our ourselves and which is not putting any questions on the health of the human being. The roadmap which we are talking about in the sugar industry is product innovation, diversifications, how we can have new products, how we can have not a single type of the sugar or not merely talking about the plantation white sugar or the raw sugar or the refined sugar, but can we have healthier sugars from the sugar industry? So the people are convinced that if they are going to take the sugar, they are not going to have any harmful effect on their health. So product innovation, we are talking about the product innovations. We are talking about diversification, as I was talking about. just to increase the revenue streams, just to have more products or the newer products or the innovative products from the sugar industry. Number two is about safe processing and packaging. Gone are the days when we used to, pack the sugar in 100 kg bags or 50 kg bags. The scenario has changed. The society has changed, and now you do have the mall culture, and nobody is very eager to buy the sugar which is not properly packed, because once you are having a safe processing and packaging, at least the packaging, because it is going in the hands of the consumer. So if you are having a proper packaging, he is sure about the weight. He may be sure about the hygienic conditions too, because your sugar has not been kept in open for longer period of the time. So again, the the focus is on safe processing, because many HACCP and many quality QMS and many those certifications, they have come into the picture now, and we are talking about safe food from farm to fork. COVID has given a lesson to all of us, and because of the COVID also, I should say, the industry has taken a leap, and now the sugar industry is more into safe processing and into a packaging which is consumer friendly and environment friendly. Third is about branding of the Indian sugar and how we can enter into the international arena, because as I said, the specialty sugar market is dominated by Mauritius. So how we can brand Indian sugars, how we can strongly make our presence felt in the international market. So that way we are also looking into the branding of the sugars and production of the different type of the sugar, including specialty sugar, on which I am going to discuss something today. Byproduct, I already told you that, because we want to increase the revenues, how we can increase the various streams, how we can generate more revenue, more income. We are looking into byproduct utilization in innovative manner, and to address the environmental issue, solid liquid waste has assumed a greater significance. So we have to hit the bullseye. We have to face the challenges which are coming, and the challenges, the opportunities of the challenges, if I talk about, it is about uh, declining or static sugar consumptions, because we are producing a lot of sugar. India is surplus in sugar from the last several years, but the consumptions are not going. Per capita consumptions are not moving in the right directions, and whatever increase in the sugar consumption is there, this is due to the increase in the population. So we are having lesser sugar consumptions, but we are producing more of the sugar. So the demand supply position has distorted. So that challenge is always there with the Indian sugar industry now, how to make corrections in the demand supply balance. Either you export or you divert the sugar for making ethanol. So that's a sort of strategy we are following in India now, exports and diversion of the surplus sugar for making ethanol. Because ethanol, as you can see, is a clean, green and renewable fuel, and we are heavily dependent upon the imports of the crude oil from Middle East and from other countries, paying heavy price for that in terms of the foreign exchange, and also, not addressing the environmental issue. So we need safe, I'm sorry, back. So we need safe food from farm to fork. We need product diversification, as we are talking about the product portfolio. And because the people are talking about, and there is a general feeling that sugar is not good for your health, and people are talking about using other sweeteners, alternate sweeteners, artificial sweeteners. So we do have a competition with the artificial sweeteners as well. So this is the safe food. We are talking about good agriculture practices. We are talking about good manufacturing practices. We are talking about good laboratory practices, and we are talking about good hygienic practices. Good all over. Various certifications, because you are the students of the food technology, you must be knowing the various certifications which are required even for any food processing industry, or once you are going for the exports of the any food product, maybe halal or something like that. So coming specifically to the sugar, because sugar is in limelight today, we are discussing sugar. Sugar quality It cannot be, the market demands apple and you are going to supply oranges. So it cannot be a comparison of, apple and oranges. So you have to produce according to the market requirement, according to the consumer behavior, according to the one's choice. So sugar quality you have to make as per the consumer preferences and the market demand. You have to have a cleaner and greener process for making the sugars, because you cannot spoil the surroundings, you cannot play with the environment, so that you have to keep. So you have to have a cleaner and greener process for making sugar, addressing the consumer concerns. And then you have to ensure that whatever you have produced is produced under hygienic conditions, and you have packed it in a consumer and environment friendly packaging. One thing which now getting, some amount of focus from the entrepreneurs also is about production of the specialty sugars, because now you can see the market which are flooded with the brown sugar, muscovado sugar, loaf sugar, liquid sugar, candy sugar, and many other type of the sugars, including demerara sugars and the liquid sugars. So this is all sector specific. Every sugar has got its role, it has got its market, and you have to just hit the bullseye. And then ultimately you have to go in for the branding of the sugar. It is not like sugar, sugar, sugar. चीनी को चीनी की तरीके से नहीं बेचना है. You have to sell the sugar as a brand. कि जैसे कि आप कोई भी if you look into Patanjali is a brand. Even the wheat or the rice or the any product you talk about, any commodity you talk about, it has become a brand and you are selling it as a brand. This will give you some idea about the various type of the sugars which we can produce and which are in demand in the in the market. Fortified sugar, I always talk about giving healthier option to the consumer, because once you talk about the sugar which is fortified, we are having the fortified rice in the country. If you go to any African country, you cannot sell the sugar as a sugar unless it is fortified, because the people in the African countries, they do have deficiency of the vitamin A. So they are having the sugars which are vitamin A fortified. In your country, in our country also, we can have, like rice, we can have fortification of the sugar. I'm happy that CFTRI is also doing some work on fortification of the sugar. We at National Sugar Institute, we have developed an innovative process for fortification of the sugar, which is based on the co-crystallization of any nutrient into the sugar lattice. So this is something about, the liquid sugar. Every sugar has got a market and you get value additions. I'm not of the opinion that you convert all of your sugar into a specialty sugar. You can keep, sugar production or the quality sugar production as per the market demand. 90% of the sugar can be used or can be produced as per the conditions which are suiting to the bulk consumer. Because one thing I just wanted to tell you, whatever sugar you produce in the country, 65% of the sugar is consumed by the bulk consumers or the industrial users. Only 35% of the sugar or even less is consumed by the consumers like you and me directly. So 65 to 70% of the sugar is going to the industrial users. They may be requiring very good quality of the sugar. If you talk about the bakery industry, they may be, or the confectionery industry, they may be talking about the castor sugar, superfine sugar, icing sugar. If you go to the pharmaceutical industry, they may be aspiring for, the pharma sugar. If you go to beverage industry, they may be requiring liquid sugar. If you talk to a patient who is having diabetes, he may talk about low GI sugar. So ultimately, you can have different type of the sugar suiting to the market requirements. And this is about Mauritius. Mauritius, who is the market leader right now, they are supplying, or exporting these specialty sugar to more than 50 countries. So if you can capture even 50% of the market of the specialty sugars, I think we are going to reduce the burden on the Indian sugar industry, and you can earn foreign exchange and you can have the value additions as well. This is just to give food for thought and just to give you an idea, because Mauritius at one point of time had 300 sugar factories. Right now they have only 11 sugar factories. But with this small size, such a smaller country as compared to India, they are exporting specialty sugar to 50 odd countries. So this is a market which we need to look into, and the Indian sugar industry is supposed to look into. Go healthy should be the mission, and we can talk about natural cane sugar, a sugar which is produced by using minimum of the chemicals. We can talk about the organic sugar cane and organic sugar, mineral sugars, fortified sugars. So any such type of the sugars, the high value added product we can have. This will give an indication that sugar is not all that bad. I will come to that also. But many options you can put in the shelves that if you are not interested to take a white sugar, you can take this sugar, which is healthier sugar, which is, filled with all the ingredients being a nutritive sugar. So that way, natural, bio, organic, because these have become the buzzwords, you can have many high value, sugars or the high value added products from the sugar industry as well. Packaging of sugar, again, because I have already touched this issue, not into 50 kg bags or 100 kg bags, but if you need a bulk consumption or bulk, user who wants in 50 kg bags, you can do that. But there are many other ways in which you can pack the sugar, ranging from a simple paperboard box to a more convenient, resealable bag. So many options are there, and already Indian Institute of Packaging has done wonderful job. How we can go ahead with the packing of the sugar, how we can have good quality packing with minimum cost, and the packing which can increase the shelf life of the sugar as well, giving a aesthetic look, giving it a look which is fascinating to the consumer. It also provides good shelf life or higher shelf life of the sugar. Now this is something which is very favorite to me, and I would like to take 2 or 3 minutes on this one, because ultimately I'm heading National Sugar Institute Kanpur, who is working in tandem with the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. So something people always talk about, and they blame sugar for creating obesity, diabetes, dental caries, or the tooth decay, or hypertension. Basically, do you think it is all due to sugar, or we have to uh, make uh, we have to make sugar culprit? The only culprit is sugar, or we have to blame our lifestyle also? Because basically, to me, and the studies as have been carried out word over, they say it is basically the balanced diet and the energy block. It is the calorie you take and calorie you spend. This is important. It is not all about consumption of the sugar. You talk about the obesity. Now coming to the first, you talk about if you take more sugar, you will gain weight. This is not true, because International Sugar Organization conducted a study, and there is a portal also, Meetha. You can hit that portal and you can see whether sugar is going to cause you obesity, because generally people talk about this aspects in length and breadth. The the survey which was conducted, or the study which was conducted, shows there is no correlation between sugar intake and weight gain. The people who are taking less of sugar are obese, rather than the people who are taking more sugar. In India, we are having, sugar consumptions to the extent of 19 or 20 or 23 or 24 in totality, but people are obese sometimes. To talk about the Brazil, they are taking their consumptions are to the extent of 48 kg per capita consumptions are to the extent of 48 kg per annum. So there is no direct relationship between the obesity or the weight gain and the sugar consumption. The study has concluded. Now coming to diabetes, if you have got diabetes, please do not take sugar. But diabetes is more genetic in nature rather than blaming the sugar. So we have to look into whether we do have the diabetes. You are having diabetes. I am not going to advocate sugar. You are not supposed to take the sugar. But sugar is not the sole culprit for any diabetes to anyone. Tooth decay is, again, it is not because of the sugar. Sugar is not going to cause you tooth decay if you clean your teeth regularly. It is basically due to the oral hygiene. All the time people talk about, and when we were in our childhood, our parents used to say, brush your teeth twice. Once you get up in the morning and before going to the bed, you have to clean your teeth. So this is basically the oral hygiene, the decay of the food, whether it is sugar or anything more. So oral hygiene is important for your tooth decay. And hypertension. Don't blame, please don't blame sugar. These mobile phones or the cable TVs and the TVs have made your kids more into hyperactivity rather than talking about the sugar. So there is lot of blame which has been put on sugar. Sugar, my dear, is not the sole culprit for all these problems, but we have to introspect and we have to go into the details and we have to talk about our lifestyles when we are doing everything on remote. We are not doing any, walkings. We are not into cyclings. We are not into anything more. So this is basically, energy or the calories you are taking and calories you are burning per day. And this is mostly because of the lobbies which are working in favor of the artificial sweeteners. There may be, uh, people may be talking about many goods about the artificial sweeteners. But the basic thing is because they talk about sugar being injurious to health, so you should not take sugar. Now, what to take? You have to take something which is sweet and which is not going to give you calories. So this may be a low calorie sweetener or artificial sweeteners. And because of the COVID-19, there was a advisory from the WHO also, World Health Organization, about consumption of the sugar. So the people, they developed uh, sugar because of the steroids. So they started consuming less of the sugar, and the people started talking about other healthier options. Uh, so the curtailment in the consumption of the sugar also took place during the COVID period. But because of the recent studies, because the people are not sure about if you take the artificial sweetener, maybe aspartame or any other, artificial sweetener, are you not having or you are not going to have any concerns, or are you not going to have any ill effects on your health? Artificial sweeteners, as per the studies which have been carried out, they indicate some allergic reactions among the consumers, and again, there are reports of that these high intensity sweeteners can cause blood related disorders like leukemia, which can be a cause of death also. So it is not all good about the artificial sweeteners, but because they talk about something, the ill effects of the sugar, the sucrose which you take. So that's why the people are, they are talking more about the artificial sweeteners, and there is a growing market for the artificial sweeteners as well, and taking advantage because because it is again like apple and oranges. Because if you want a low calorie sweetener or zero calorie sweeteners, or a the product which is having less of the sugars or no sugar, the companies, FMCGs, F&B companies, they are taking advantages, and they have launched many products, maybe the Coca-Cola, maybe the Nestle, or maybe the PepsiCo. So many companies you will find they have come with the zero calories or the low calories products. Or in fact, the sugary tax has been imposed in many countries because they want to curtail, because they talk about the health of their citizens, and they feel that sugar is the lone culprit for all their problems. So they have imposed a sugary tax. You can see the North America, Europe, South America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania, that they have imposed the sugary tax, that if your product contains, there is a threshold limit. If the product contains sugar exceeding the limit, then they are going to have, a taxation which is a sugary tax. So your products, they become, costlier, and you are not tempted to consume the product which is a costlier. So you will go for some alternate. So that way you can curb your sugar production. But one thing for sure, and which the studies have also indicated, imposing the sugary tax has not resulted in any, curtailment in the sugar consumption. This is a sort of eyewash, but many factories, or many countries rather, they have imposed the sugary tax. Now, why the people are creating so much of the hype for artificial sweeteners? As a food technologist, as a person who are uh, aspiring or looking into making their careers into food processing industries, you have to something about why these people are talking a lot on artificial sweeteners. I'm not going to give a very clean chit to the sugar, but sugar, as I reiterate, sugar is not the lone culprit for all of your problems. But why this media, or there is a lobby which is working in favor of the artificial sweeteners, or the producers of the artificial sweeteners are creating so much of the hype? Now you look into the table, and you look into the table which indicates the sweetener and the price which is relative to the sugar. If you need sucrose or the sugar, and it is going to cost you 1 rupee, saccharine is going to cost you only 2 paisa. for the same, degree of the sweetness. Aspartame 8 paisa, ace sulfame going to cost you 4 paisa, stevia around 40 paisa. So that way the business is lucrative, because for the same intensity of the sweetness, instead of spending 1 rupee, you are going to spend only 2 paisa. You are saving 98 paisa on cost of production, and then you are selling the product at a higher price because this is containing low added sugar, low calorie, 0 calorie, or something like that. So this is all marketing. You have to look into this aspect also, the price of the intense sweetener vis-a-vis price of the sugar which is in the market. So as compared to 1 rupee, you are spending only 2 paisa or 4 paisa or 8 paisa or 15 paisa or 40 paisa, but you are getting a very high price of the product because you have come out with a 0 calorie or the low calorie or the low added sugar product in the market. So this aspect is very important, which you people, you students, everybody should understand why the people sometimes they are behind the sugar, and the lobbies which are working, talking about sugar as a culprit for all the health problems. So finally, to conclude with, looking into the scenario, because still we are not out of the COVID, we are into COVID again. The cases are increasing, and otherwise also because of the change in the the demographic patterns, increasing income levels, consumers' expectations for the quality, overall quality in any respect, not merely about the sugar, but anything which they buy, that has increased, and they want good quality of the particularly the commodities or the material or the products which they want to consume. Product diversification is very important, because unless you go for the product diversification, you cannot keep pace with the changing times. And again, it will become a sort of comparison between apple and oranges. So you have to look into an eye on what is happening in the market, and you have to change your product portfolio as per the requirement of the common consumers and the bulk consumers, or in fact the overall market conditions. You are also required to look into the international scenario also, because country like India, which is now aspiring for exports also, so you have to look into the quality aspects of the sugar which are required in the international market. So this is all about safe food packaging, safe processing and packaging, cleaner and greener process, many products in your shelves, quality control, superior quality of the product, and then last but not the least, the value added items, the natural products which you can have from the sugar industry, because that way you can increase the product portfolio, you can have more revenue streams, you can increase the the overall income of a particular sugar factory or a particular industry, you can increase the profitability. And to me, from institute or as a person who gives input for the policy making, once you are diversifying, you are having more ancillary units, once you are into more products, you are going to have investments again, you are going to have the prosperity, you are going to have the industry in the surroundings, you are going to have the industry in the rural area, and then you are creating employment, which is very important nowadays. So thank you very much, CFTRI, for giving me this chance to share my feelings, my the concept about the Indian sugar industry with the faculty and the students. Thanks a lot. Jai Hind. It is over to you, CFTRI, for any questions.
Thank you, sir, for the very lucid presentation. We'll take just two questions, and then we'll proceed further for the program. Sir, one question is that please enlighten on low GI sugar. How could one obtain that?
Already we are having few products in the market which are called as the low GI sugar, because as you know, if you do have the GI less than 55, we can term the sugar or any product as a low GI. So the people are into who are encasing the sugar into some other material, and they are making the low GI sugars. There is a long way to go, and if you recall, we already had a discussion with the CFTRI scientist also. Can we have many such products from the sugar industry? So we are still, at National Sugar Institute, we are also working how to come out with these low GI sugar at reduced cost.
The other question is, Recently, Indian government has imposed restriction on sugar export through free, though there been no reduction in domestic production. Could you please share your views on this?
It was not a sort of a restriction, but for a time being, the government took a step to put a cap or put a ceiling on 10 million metric tons of the export. That ceiling was lifted, and the government allowed around 112 lakh tons or 11.2 million metric tons of the exports of the sugar. You have to keep in mind, the sugar demand supply balance. Ultimately, you have to keep around 6 million metric tons of the sugar as a buffer. Otherwise, if you go for the exports and if you are not having adequate sugar in your godowns, the buffer you are not having, then the demand supply position may distort and the sugar prices may escalate. So that way, the government is taking a very holistic, view on that. The amount of the sugar which is going to be there at the end of the sugar season in the godowns, because we need around 6 million metric tons of the sugar in the godowns to meet any eventuality. So this was the reason why they kept 10 million metric tons, and now we do have a ceiling for 11.2 million metric tons.
Sir, can we take two more questions?
Yes.
Does increase in ethanol production, which was recently introduced by Government of India, affect the export of sugar?
No, it is not like that, because we are not into exports. India was not a structured uh, exporter of the sugar. Before 2016 or 17, we were not exporting the sugar by miles. We used to export sugar in a very meager quantity. Otherwise, we used to import the sugar. But now, from the last couple of years, we are having more of the sugar in the country because of various proactive policies of the government of India. Uh, Ethanol is important to us because, as I already said, 83% of the crude oil requirements are, through imports. So ethanol is a clean, green, and renewable fuel for us. So if we can divert the sugar for making the ethanol, it is going to benefit the country, in many terms, maybe energy security, foreign exchange, clean and green fuel, and we are talking about the carbon neutrality also. So that way, it is not something like inhibiting the exports, because we do have a limited capacity of ethanol production also. So the looking to the capacity of ethanol units, we can look for diversion of the sugar, and the balance sugar we can always export into the international market if the prices are reasonable or competitive.
The last question is, which is the healthiest form of cane sugar for daily consumption?
This is like a Rubik cube to me, because all that glitters is not gold. If you talk to me that what type of sugar I should consume, I will never say you consume the refined sugar or you consume the plantation white sugar. I will say you should consume the raw sugar, because the raw sugar is one sugar which has been produced with minimum quantity of the chemicals, and it is still having some quantities of the natural ingredients, maybe the minerals and whatever it is there. So if you are producing on commercial scale plantation white sugar, refined sugar, or the raw sugar, my best bet will be the raw sugar.
Thank you, sir. The next program
Thank you.
was to a presidential remark by our director, Dr. Sridevi Annapurna Singh. But due to recent assignment of additional charge of NL director, she is currently traveling to Bangalore, so she is unable to attend. So I will request Dr. Srirama to give a formal vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Negi. So it is my privilege to give a vote of thanks on this technical track, on the technical track during this Azadi Amrith Mahotsav series technical track. So on behalf of the director CSIR-CFTRI, I express my sincere thanks to Professor Narendra Mohan for giving a very highly inspirational and motivational talk on sugar production and consumption changing scenario. Sir, your talk was really beneficial, and it will have a very positive impact on our colleagues and students, large number of students. In fact, this is the first, we have a very close collaboration with National Sugar Institute, Kanpur. And this is the first such activity. And these activities will continue our collaboration with National Sugar Institute. And we are grateful to Dr. Sridevi Annapurna Singh, our director, CSIR-CFTRI, for taking keen interest in organizing this talk, and also for our guidance, support, and encouragement. So I wish to express our gratitude to Dr. Pradeep Singh Negi, Chief Scientist and Head HRD Department, CSIR-CFTRI, for meticulously planning this technical talk and coordinating with the National Sugar Institute and the director, Dr. Narendra Mohan, for this technical talk. I wish to express my sincere thanks to all the motivated participants, both physically present in this hall and also virtually joining this talk through YouTube for their interest and careful listening. So I express my thanks to our information technology and computational services team, especially Mr. Manohar and Tejas, and information and publicity department head Dr. Ramesh Kumar and Mr. Sunil for their help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, with this, we will close this program today. Thank you, sir.